and miss the end of the film on a big screen. So Brett is a New Jersey filmmaker, correct?
I shot that in
I
Texas,
saw it was shot in Texas.
but I live in Jersey right now.
So what was
Originally from.
So you were there and then you moved to Jersey? So,
I'm originally from New Jersey. I moved to Texas after I went to college at UT, and then stayed there for a while. And then after I made this movie, I had to move back home.
so I asked Brett today, I mean, where have you been? Where has this guy come from? He's done one short that was on ABC's of
Death 2.5, so it's not official, but
So he's done one little short and then made this film.
Holy crap.
Unbelievable. My opinion, masterpiece. I love this movie. I love 70s movies, and this has 70s written all over it. What did, I usually don't even care what camera people use or anything like that, but what did you discuss with your DP as far as getting that 70s look that you have in this?
we watched a lot of movies. We sat down and I introduced him to a lot of horror films. I brought a guy who I met in college, but he moved out to LA, and we always wanted to work together, but we never did. So he was like, I'll drive out for this, and I'll work at a lower rate than I would typically work, just to work together. And I showed him, we sat down, we watched some Giallos, and we watched Texas Chainsaw, of course, which actually, for all the ugliness in that film, is actually beautifully shot, beautifully composed, absolutely.
It felt like a few times, the slow motion at the end, but also the music you chose over the beginning with the running over the track really reminded me of Carrie.
That's funny because some of the tracks we originally had on this were the Donaggio score for Carrie. So
It definitely has that beautiful lyrical look, but it doesn't last long.
No.
You did a great job of having conflict in this film from the very get-go with the family.
That worked out nicely, mostly because it was an intense shoot. I think that comes out in the film a little bit because we're shooting in Texas in July and we have the air conditioning turned off. So that house was like 120 degrees.
Yeah, we know it. We know it well here. In Buffalo, we don't shoot films in the winter, only in the summer, and locations typically don't have AC. So we know.
Yeah, I messed up because I was in Texas and I shot in the summer.
So, how long were you developing this before you went into production?
Quite a while, actually. I mean, we started on the script, I think we had it completed in 2015, and then we started figuring everything out after that, and we shot in 2015. We finished editing in 2017, and now we have it available, so.
But it feels like you spontaneously generated. I mean, how do you get from doing that little short to doing a full feature?
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I went to film school. I had been working on stuff. It's just, I don't know. I had a break at some point where I'm like, I gotta do something. I gotta make something.
So just for the hell of it, you've got to make a great horror film.
Yeah, well, what happened, I had money set aside. I had won a lawsuit, and I have this money set aside for years. And I'm like, someday. I'm like, why not today? Yeah, so.
So if I gather correctly, this was a professional shoot, paid crew, paid cast?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are the actors SAG?
Some of them.
SAG ultra low.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You probably don't want to get into the budget of the film, but how much were you able to raise on Kickstarter in addition to the?
We only raised an extra $10K for the film, but everything else came out of pocket for me. So.
Was that finishing funds, festival money, what?
Partially festival money, partially editing funds. We needed money for the sound design, for the sound mix.
So you own this film, lock, stock, and barrel.
Oh yeah.
Thus, you need to be really careful with that distribution deal. But that's a great position to be in, to own to have a film this good and to own it 100% is amazing.
I am happy I own it, but because it damn near killed me making it. But yeah, it was worth it in the end.
You told me earlier today that there is a 90-minute cut.
There was a 90-minute cut, and there was a whole scene at the beginning of the movie. It's in the script, and we shot it of the derelict. We introduced the derelicts first, actually, and they're finishing off a different house. And we had to cut that scene because it confused people. it was a kind of confusion that didn't benefit the film.
Did it actually show the murders or the aftermath? Or like the
It was the last person in the house prior, and they smash her into the TV.
And what seemed to be the source of the confusion in terms of your testing?
It was a lot, there's a lot of dialogue in those parts that are backstory that people thought was important, that wasn't important, and I said, well, if it's not important, then let's just cut it, because it's only leaving confusion.
Cool, very cool. What were some of the other scenes that you cut?
The movie reordered, a lot of it is in a different order than it was written in, or even intended to be in, for a lot of it, in order to, for one thing, when the Bobby John part, where they're talking where the grandpa's talking at the table and they're threatening him with the gun, was supposed to be a completely separate part from her whispering to the dad, and we cut them together.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that made it immediately more tense.
Yeah, that's cool. How long was the script?
The script was 90 pages. The script was a good 95-page script.
And the shooting schedule?
Shooting schedule was supposed to be 15 days. We took 17. We set aside an extra 2 just in case, and it was good we did.
Yeah, it's funny, when I watched it, it was like, oh, this is actually quite a gory film. But after watching Framed last night, I want to thank you for actually using some restraint, and it felt like there were times where you cut away and maybe others might not have. It definitely delivers all those goods.
Well, unlike Framed, we don't have any poop eating.
Yeah. Sequel.
Think about it. You said it at Christmas.
I haven't seen any of these home invasion movies like The Strangers and stuff, so I don't really have anything to compare it to, but I don't think I've seen a film before where the leader of the bad guys gets killed, and that leads to all sorts of discord and infighting among the other people. So that seemed like a new twist to me.
Thank you. We wanted them to be both clear, distinct families with their own internal struggles that are apparent to the audience and that move the story forward.
I made that comparison earlier today to The Hills Have Eyes, where you have the two competing families. The difference is, in The Hills Have Eyes, the good family, they don't have any of this dysfunction going on.
No.
I mean, they argue a lot and stuff because it's a 70s film, but in this, they have all these separate conflicts and stuff, and we get it right off the bat, which makes it so cool. So, I guess maybe because you cut some stuff out, though, but the central conflict happens really fast. Those bad guys get in there.
It happened. It was supposed to always happen. I wanted it to move, and thus it just made sense to cut it to the 74-minute time frame that it is, because I always wanted it to go boom, boom, boom. And although I shot a 90-minute movie, I thought it was too slow. It didn't quite flow.
That key shot of the derelicts driving, I assume that's a process shot? Green screen?
We shot that on a road.
You did?
I
couldn't find any matte lines, but I was trying to figure it out.
No, yeah, we had a whole rig on the truck, and then I'm in a separate car listening to the audio. We kept close enough to listen. When that car drove by, that honk you hear is real because my assistant director almost hit him. And we were like, and he's also the editor, and he said, I'm leaving that in. I almost died for that. So I'm leaving that sound effect in.
The sound is less interesting to me than the speed with which you were driving. Were they moving fast so that you could speed it up? Because that background, I've shot moving car, and I know that the background's always moving slow. Your background was moving pretty fast.
For some of it's sped up, some of it's not, and so we're moving pretty fast on these open Texas roads, which you can some of them there's no speed limit.
Yeah.
When you're out in the ranch areas and they have the really wide roads that no one but tractors drive on, you can go 100 on that, and the cop won't even pull you over.
But what about your actors?
They were fine. We weren't going that fast, actually, and on top of that, they're all strapped in.
Yeah, strapped in.
We had stunt people on making sure everything was good, safe for everyone. So they were like rigged in good, but you can't see it.
Yeah. So this is sort of what I meant by it's a professional shoot and not one of the micro budget films that were amazed, you know, they were made for this amount of money. You had all the safety precautions and a full crew.
Almost all the safety precautions. There's a shot that gets a great reaction when Dalton, who plays Leslie, hits his head on that wall, and that was not obvious. That's clearly not intentional. People don't do that intentionally, and I called cut in the middle of that take, and he kept going. So luckily we were able to take me calling cut out of it.
And how was the suction eyeball achieved?
The suction eyeball, we had a fake head, and it's just taking a finger and just poking the eyeball up in there.
Was it a full likeness of the actor, or was it just something that you were able to get?
It was, we like built like an eyebrow right here and a little hair here just to get that much of it, and then to get the blood and air pressure.
Awesome work with the fingers. I was wondering when I was watching the screener, how far is this going to go? And then the fingers told me.
Yeah, that was fun. That stuff makes me laugh, to be honest. I think that's so funny.
Oh yeah, well, I'm sure you heard the laughter in our audience. The key parents, not the elder parents, but the key family parents, Greg and the wife who's tied up most of it. They were fantastic. What have they done before?
Kelly, I don't know how much she's actually done. I don't think she does mostly professionally. David has moved out to LA, and he's done a lot. He's done so much that I'll be watching a commercial and he'll pop up, or I'll be watching like Amish haunting or some ghost show, and he'll be like creepy dude. And so that's always, I always like to text David and be like, I just saw you in some random ghost show.
How many festivals have you screened at so far?
Probably around 7.
And did you do a premiere in Austin as well as?
We only did a cast and crew screening in Austin. I haven't been accepted to any Austin, Texas festivals or anything like that. But we premiered in Telluride. We premiered in Telluride Horror Show in Colorado, which was really fun, and weed's legal, so good all around.
I didn't realize that. Telluride, it's pretty.
Oh yeah. That was exciting. That was fun.
Sold out show.
Pretty close. It was pretty packed, and good audience reaction. Great audience reaction here. I've been enjoying that.
Well, Greg and his dad have been here all week for the whole festival. I'm glad you guys turned out. It's actually pretty good for a Monday night. I was so excited when you responded to my Facebook and said, I'm coming, when I asked the question. And then I said, oh no, but I can't fit them in on the weekend. You were already scheduled for a Monday. So I think this is a pretty good turnout. Like 6 people left as soon as the credits rolled, so we had a decent amount of people. Who's got some questions, comments? See a hand in the back first, right?
Derek?
Yeah.
Brett, the movie was great. I don't know if you heard us laughing and roaring back here, but it was fucking fantastic. And I've never seen a PG book used like that before. It was very impressive. And the movie just looks beautiful. It moves real fast. I'm glad you caught the first scene out in the beginning, because the movie was just, it was non-stop till from beginning to end. Kept us rerolled. We loved it back here. So good luck with it, man.
Well, thank you so much, and I did appreciate all the laughter back there.
Well, sorry.
It was really great. How much of that was, I think I'm getting academic, but it was neat because I know like Texas Chainsaw Massacre is sort of like the horror version of like a holiday dinner, sort of. And then it's sort of like, well, what happens if you have like a regular dysfunctional family with a really extreme dysfunctional family? I wasn't sure like if that was immediately your inspiration or just sort of grew out of the writing.
We realized that we could pull a lot from family drama, and I think we found that it would be interesting that, in my opinion, the more dysfunctional family is the supposed regular family. I think the other family kind of has it together until, to a certain extent, until the end. They're actually pretty together. And part of me also thinks that they would have had a worse Thanksgiving if they didn't show up.
My daughter, Kaylin, who should not have watched this movie.
I have 2 questions actually.
Be loud, dear.
I have 2 questions.
Hmm?
So one, the crazy man with the Care Bear on his head, how did he disappear?
How did he disappear? Editing. He didn't really disappear, he just ran away between shots.
It's more about what was in her head.
The way she's imagining this happens at the end.
Question 2.
Was she always mad, or was she kind of turning mad towards the end of the story?
It's a really astute question. She was mad from the beginning. And I always said with this film, even at the script stage, Constance is the main character, but she doesn't have an actual arc in terms of she's a different person by the end of the movie. She's not a different person by the end of the movie. We reveal the person she is by the end of the movie, that she's always really been.
And gave us hints throughout with her little visions.
Mm-hmm.
Who else?
I thought it was awesome, and I really loved it. The pacing was great, so good call on trimming everything. I really thought that revealing the family the way you did was perfectly fitting, and it's hard when you're writing in the beginning, how do I open, and it was pretty brave to take it from that explosion of what the hell and do the opening a little bit differently, but in the end, obviously, with your pacing and the way everything worked, I think it was a great choice. But I mean, just striking, all the effects were just great, and I mean, this is going in my list of exploitation badass. I mean, I can't wait to show it to people and be like, wait till you see this crazy shit. Yeah.
I told all of you.
My main question was as far as our Care Bear headed friend, for all the costumes, everything was really great. All the ideas for the costumes were great, but where did you come up with the idea for just him with his bear head and that crazy mask that once this releases is going to be Halloween legend?
Honestly, the brilliant thing about, in the script we didn't know what that mask was going to be. We had it just as a bag, and we're like, we'll come up with something better along the way. And the 2 guys I wrote with are Andre Evernos and Clay Shirley, who are both in the movie. Clay plays Sal, the gross, rapey guy, and then there's Andre, who plays Turk. He plays Teddy Bear Mask Dude, and he built that. He made that mask. And and he still has it, and I don't think he's washed it. But, yeah, last time we took it to a screening, I was like, this hasn't been washed.
Did you laugh during Frame last night when you saw one of their invaders had a mask and acted crazy?
I saw that and I was like, damn it.
Always sucks. Is that a trope from home invasion films? Like, has that been used before, where just one of the people has a crazy mask?
It's not one that I've particularly seen. I was like, I need an iconic profile character. I need someone that, like, I can see their shadow and I know that character immediately. Like, that's what I wanted. Something for the poster, really.
And if you looked at the poster, it is a caricature of that. Sorry, John, what?
I was just saying, I highly recommend making as many of those masks as you can, and you own this thing, sell the shit out of them. Oh my God, you'll have a plan to make another movie off those masks alone.
That'd be nice.
Well, I was just thinking, I don't know if there was any other allusions within it, in terms of like the family, like there's the Manson sort of thing. I sort of caught with the.
It's funny, with the X on the forehead, I gave the actors a lot of leeway with creating the look of their characters to a certain extent. We had done a lot of character work, a lot of rehearsal, and Les wanted that carved into the head, so we put that in there for him, because he was like, he thought of it in terms of Manson.
But so I saw Manson, and actually Turk, I actually thought it was just another version of Leatherface. It happens to be just with the doll, but still sort of like covering up his face. So I thought you were sort of representing like extreme families, like in moviedom, but then it's also sort of a pop cultural sort of thing.
It's intended as sort of a mix. of ideas and things. That way, I can move quickly into the movie. We understand the symbology of everything and where everyone fits into this real quickly.
The girl in the girl derelict was great too. And I thought you had great dynamics going on in there besides just the terror thing. And what was also great about the writing was none of the terror, I thought, delved into gratuitous stuff. I mean, it seemed like you're almost there and then you didn't go there. Like, sometimes you see a horror film, it seems like, and now we're gonna just do this because we want to do this. And you're like, oh God, like we just have to suffer through it. But I never thought
needed to be here last night for Brad.
so I thought that was great, but I also thought it was great that you got to see really interesting, positive dynamics. Even well, the girl in the Derelict family, I forget her name.
Bo.
Bo. As twisted as she was, sometimes it was interesting seeing how empowered she was as a female in it. And I like this. That's weird that I'm having this thing well, that's positive about her. It's except she's crazy. So that was really weird. And then the other thing that I thought was great was how you kind of had this evening, this settling of Constance killing the mistress, which was shocking.
That was great.
But you don't think of her as a monster. You're thinking well, that makes sense. I mean, as a revenge thing, it makes sense. And then at the same time, she forgives Turk to a certain extent. She lets him go. Well, as a mother, I kind of see that too. Oh, this is more twisted because, because you're kind of seeing the sympathy for this really bizarre trade-off stuff going on. I thought it was great.
My thought around that is that those two characters are twisted in a similar way. There's something there, there's a connection there. I always thought of Constance as also being intuitive to the point of almost being precognitive, with the beginning, with the dream, with the blood drop on her face. It's just a premonition to what will come, that she can feel that maybe others can't.
She has a better mask.
She has a better mask, that's true.
The shot through the door, that key shot, how was that achieved? Is that a VFX or was that shot live?
That's shot live.
And was it rain machines?
Yeah. We had rain machines in there, and part of it was we needed to figure out how we were gonna shoot this because I couldn't make the rain machines work properly with the camera outside. We're we'll just shoot it through the door, right? And it looks better.
So it was just rain in front of the hole,
Basically. Just rain in front of the hole.
And that didn't affect the focus at all on the.
We worked it out. I had a really, really, really good cinematographer. It was just brilliant.
You did a great job. How many days did you say it ended up being?
We shot 17 days.
Very cool. And whose house was it? Where'd you get that?
These poor people. We rented it.
Yeah.
They weren't happy.
Did they know what you were renting it for?
For a movie. They didn't know it was this movie. So they get in and there's blood on the ceiling and they're still knocking down a fake wall and they're like, what the fuck was going on?
Yeah, getting that security deposit back.
So not everything was incredibly well planned. That could have gone better.
And you intentionally kept everything in daylight. All takes place in the day. You never get into the night stuff.
My cinematographer was very mad at me for that, and he's like, "Can we just set it at night? Can we just set it at night?" And I'm like, "No, every other horror movie set at night. I want bad things happen in the daylight too."
Not to mention Thanksgiving dinner.
Exactly.
Good choice.
Was there a question about the daughter, Barbara?
Mm-hmm.
She has these flashbacks of her running on the track,
Mm-hmm.
and also the scene where you see the derelicts are coming and she's in the shower and she's crying. Is this sort of like she's clairvoyant there, or
She's inherited a little bit of her mother's precognitive intuition.
in the running? Is that symbolic that she's trying to get away from this dysfunctional family?
Well, she does track. So yeah, we have the trophies and the medals in the room and the shirt.
I love the cross-cutting when she's crawling under the table. I gotta say, every time you use it, this is some of the best use of slow-mo I've seen. Really love it.
When we went into it, we thought of Peckinpah, specifically Sam Peckinpah going into it. When we sat down, we watched Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia and Stardust and stuff like that. And for some of the editing, we even watched Midnight Cowboy. And a lot of the 70s films that I love the cross.
Love every one of them.
Yeah.
I noticed on the credits, Puppet Master,
Oh, Puppet? Puppet's the cat.
Oh.
That was a disturbing cat. I didn't notice it the first time.
That cat is super cute, actually. It's really weird looking
Not on
goblin.
a big
It's like
screen.
a goblin thing, but when you're seeing it in person and it's curled up in your lap, it's like a puppy, this cat. This cat was so cute and it ate everything. Because actually Sphinx cats actually constantly have to eat because they have a higher body temperature. It's weird to have this. But this cat, one time we were shooting and it stole someone's taco. It stole the entire breakfast taco and ran off.
Texas.
Texas.
Anybody else? Well,
Rick, one more back here.
yeah.
I just want to tell you, proper use of split screen too. That was really impressive.
Yes.
A lot of people use split screen and they don't know how to maneuver it. The split screen shots were awesome in this movie. Because usually when I see split screen, I'm like, but you worked it perfectly.
We set up some very tight, specific parameters when we got into the editing and realized we wanted to do split screen because another inspiration for me is De Palma.
Yeah, this thing.
And we thought, well, we could do a 3-way split screen, that'd be really cool, but our rule was only at the beginning when we introduced the 3 different frames can they truly be giving 3 different pieces of information. Every other time it's cutting, it's only showing you 2 pieces of information at most at any given time, but they're all being conveyed with the 3 frames.
What was the reasoning behind using that logic? I mean, it sounds very well thought out that you did that, but what was ultimately the point?
I realized people could only read like so many things at one time. Once you get up to 3,
Yeah,
it starts to get.
24.
But at first I could introduce these things one at a time, and people could get that information in doses. But now that I have all the frames up there, after that I need to dose out the information.
It's funny watching on a big screen. It's just totally cinematic.
Mm.
Watching it, like we have to watch it on submission, it just worked on a whole different level on emotions and drive and all that other stuff. But it's so great to see it on a big screen like this. And I tried to get it louder. This is as loud as it would go.
That worked for me.
Derek?
The other thing that I like is the split screen comment made me think of it. I don't know if thought came up during post-production or you had it already when you were filming it, but I loved how you sometimes would see a scene and hear things going on in another scene. Like you have simultaneous stuff going on, but through different information, visual one, audio from the other. And I thought that was great too in terms of compressing things and keeping things moving and attention.
Well, that goes back to when I sat down with my editor, who I've known for since we were 16 maybe, and we were watching Don't Look Now, and we wanted those L cuts, those cuts where you have the scenes bleed over into each other with the audio, because it just has such a lovely smoothness.
Is there another hand up? All right, let's give a final round.